And I'm getting mighty tired of your trifling ways and of listening to that jackass Bray.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
For old time's sake. As time goes by.
Hey y'all, I hope you all had a great weekend. I'm sorry that my uploading schedule has slowed a bit. I was out of town all day on Friday, and since then I haven't felt real good. Thank goodness it's not COVID, but I still really feel like shit. I have been working on a few things, and I've spent a lot of time clearing out extra content that I had saved, or saving it to like a cloud so I don't have it on my phone and computer. But then I realized I had some footage left from the Leveling Up Part 2 video she did that ended up being my Stolen Rope video. So I thought I would use a little bit of that to make something real quick.
That was for 5 minutes of material.
I don't know what the hell I did, but I lost the first bit of this video. She's saying that the first time that she got paid for doing stand-up, she did 5 minutes of material and was paid $25.
If I keep this up, this is going to be better than a therapist.
Is it really better than a therapist, though? At $25 for 5 minutes of material, you're being paid $5 a minute. At $5 a minute, an hour is $300. That's about the minimum most therapists are paid, at least in the Chicago area. Most of them are about $500 an hour. And the thing is, she wasn't really paid $25 for 5 minutes because she had to prepare that material. How long did she spend preparing that material? My guess would be at least 4 or 5 hours. So to keep the math simple, let's just say that she spent 5 hours preparing to be on stage. She got paid $25. She got paid $25 for the 5 hours of preparation and the 5 minutes of stage time. That's less than $5 an hour. But she's not looking at it like that, which is just further evidence that she doesn't think like an adult. She's still in the mindset of a child as far as everything goes. But she wants to compare herself to a therapist. Okay, let's compare. To keep it simple, let's say a therapist is paid $300 an hour. They don't have a lot of prep time, maybe a couple minutes to look over a file, and that's it. And then they can see 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 patients a day, depending. So they can make that $300 an hour multiple times in a day. Let's say they do see 7 patients in a day. That's $2,100 per day. But how many times can she make that $25 for 5 minutes on stage in a day? Twice if she's lucky. So no, Codcunt, you were not making anywhere near similar or comparable money to a therapist or psychologist. But again, good looking out on letting us know how little you know about how adults make their money.
You know what I mean? Because
It's so disgusting to me how she rubs her filthy ass hands on her face like that. It's no wonder why she looks like a crackhead going through puberty. Also, look, the way she's pulling her skin, it's no wonder why she looks like one of those dogs with the droopy ass face.
That's how I was rationalizing it at the time. Because back when I was in college, my major was psychology. And, this was like the early 2000s or whatever. So, people were like, a therapist session, you're charging like $50 an hour.
No, they definitely weren't charging $50 an hour in the early 2000s. It was probably still about $200, $250 an hour back then.
For a client, or $75 an hour for a client, right? And so that was always embedded in my mind of what I need to make per hour, right? And what I'm doing so that I could be making the same money as what I would be doing if I would have stayed in my major.
But you wouldn't be making the same money, not anywhere near close. Because even if you were making that $25 for 5 minutes, $300 an hour, you have to take into account the time that you spent getting ready to be on stage. Meanwhile, if you were a psychologist or a therapist, you don't need more than a few minutes to go over the file because you have that knowledge already. Also, you can make that money multiple times a day because you're going to see more than one client in a day. As a comedian, you're not going on stage more than once or twice at the most a night, no matter how hard you try. It just doesn't add up.
Because ever since I changed my major from psychology and I, made it clear to my mom I wasn't going to be a doctor, she always had an issue, with what I was doing. Because you were supposed to be a doctor and you're so smart and you're wasting those brains. She wished she was that smart, for somebody to be a parent that has a learning disability, It's like, honey, I can't tell she had one. I mean, I did when I grew up and, started observing her, notice certain things. But, honey, please, she was outperforming 90% of the adults around her. You know what I mean? And at least 75% of the adults in her field. Learning, schmurning, whatever, right? But, the school system labeled her that.
Oh, now the school system labeled or diagnosed your mother with a learning disability? Because how many times in the past have we heard her say that her mother had a learning disability but was never diagnosed?
Etc., right? Which, testimony, she ended up being an educator, right? But that was really, where my mom, what motivated her to, try to push me so hard to be like a doctor or something with a fancy smancy title. When I decided to go the broadcast journalism route, and then they was faking moves about getting me working in Chicago journalism television, like Chicago television, even after doing an internship in Chicago.
More proof of why she'll never be successful at anything in her entire fucking life. This bitch is so fucking dumb. You do not walk into a Chicago news studio and get on air straight out of college, regardless of where you interned. You have to work your way up. You go to a smaller market, you do some work there, you get better, you gain skill, you learn about the business, then you go into bigger markets. The fact that you expected to just walk into a Chicago studio and get a job straight out of college just shows how incredibly lazy you fucking are, that you don't want to work your way into anything. You expect it all to be handed to you.
AUPN. They just kept doing that. Oh, you're going to have to relocate to Kansas and start a small market and da-da-da-da. I'm like, I went to school in the middle of the sticks. I went to school. I started a small market in the school.
That was school, you fucking idiot, not real life experience. How do you not know how the world works?
What's the point of graduating and if we got to do it all over again? I could have just left high school and did this.
No, you couldn't have just gotten out of high school, gone to Kansas, been on air, and then worked your way up in a couple of years. That's not the way it works. You graduate, you start small, and you work your way up. You have to put in your dues. Just like a doctor doesn't start performing surgeries the day after he graduates med school.
I was so mad, y'all. Whatever. Ended up working at the video store, being a store manager, doing that whole thing, trying to get the Quentin Tarantino on, and that's when comedy came calling. And nobody wanted me to do that. Nobody. So, the way I used to rationalize it back in the day, especially after I got my first paid show, shout out to B. Cole. He was the first person to ever pay me to tell a joke. And I made $25 for that show, right? 5 minutes. So, in my mind, I was like, okay, if I'm making $25 per 5 minutes, okay, I can make $100 in 20 minutes. That's better than the $50 an hour, $75 an hour as a client if I was a psychologist. I made the math make sense so I could, present my case to my parents, who still didn't approve until I got on Martin Lord's First Amendment, and that was 2 years in. My father actually, I give him his props. My father actually became a believer within the first year. It didn't take him the full 2 years. It took my mama the full 2 years. I went to London in my first 2 years.
And how many times did they ask you to come back?
And London was the creme de la creme wake-up call, oh, shoot. You doing that telling jokes?
Once. One time you went to London. You didn't get paid to perform, though. They paid for you to get there and for your hotel, but they did not pay for you to perform. And obviously you didn't do well, because if you did, they would have asked you to come back.
So that's like a free vacation, because and I was like, man, people pay to go to London just to see what it looked like, just to visit. I got paid to perform, and it was amazing. And like, you know what I mean? The light bulb was like clicking. And he was like, well, you know, Ronnie, that he was talking about jokes and notes. Well, you know, Ronnie, that club that you performed in, you know, everybody that's on that wall is a millionaire. They Red Fox, Monique, and all, they millionaires. Everybody's millionaires. I was like, I'm trying. So he was on board. It took Martin Lawrence's First Amendment from my mama. That's when it became real to her. That's when she decided to bury the hatchet, the grudge, and all that. And was like, well, you made it to television. We did that. Yeah, we did that play.
I asked you about your wife. I know every man and they got kids.
Damn, the bitch ain't wobbling. You can tell the difference between her knees and the bottom half of her legs. No wonder why she won't let this part of her life go. That was her fucking prime.
Everybody got kids. You know, baby, you know he got some baby mama drama. I just wish that I was the leading lady. Y'all gonna leave me a tip?
She didn't even have to act for this play. She's trying to take somebody else's man and ask him for money. It's her, 100%.
I got casted for it around my birthday the previous year. And then we started working on it.
I'm getting mighty tired of your trifling ways and of listening to that jackass Bray.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.